Greetings and welcome to the Culture Ward, where we dissect and dismember pop culture in all its forms. Before we begin, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and help us grow the channel. It really means a lot to us. And don't forget to like and share the video if you enjoy the content. Now, let's get into this. How to Train Your Dragon is a media franchise from Dreamworks Animation based on a book series by Cressida Cowell. Based in a fictional past, it focuses mainly on a young Viking named Hiccup and his dragon named Toothless. 3 animated films were released beginning in 2010, all directed by Dean DeBlois, who previously worked alongside Chris Sanders at Disney on Mulan and Lilo and Stitch. The first movie introduces the main character Hiccup, a scrawny yet inventive Viking teen who doesn't quite fit in with his dragon-slaying tribe on their home island of Berk. Voiced by Jay Baruchel, Hiccup's more about brains than brawn, always tinkering with gadgets in an attempt to prove his worth. One night during a dragon raid, using one of his inventions, Hiccup shoots down a rare Night Fury dragon, the most mysterious dragon of all. When he finds the injured creature, he can't bring himself to kill it. Instead, he frees it and discovers the dragon, whom he names Toothless, is just as curious and misunderstood as he is. Their secret friendship begins, and it's a game changer. Through Toothless, Hiccup learns dragons aren't mindless monsters, they're intelligent, loyal, and only fight to survive. As Hiccup and Toothless bond, they uncover the real reason behind the dragon attacks. A massive tyrannical dragon called the Red Death is forcing the others to raid Berk. Hiccup thus sets out to convince his stubborn father, the Viking king Stoic, as well as the rest of his tribe to see dragons differently. With help from his new friend Astrid, a fierce Viking girl, Hiccup trains Toothless to fly again, using a prosthetic tail fin he crafts himself. The stakes skyrocket when Hiccup and Toothless lead a daring rebellion against the Red Death to save both Vikings and dragons. It's a thrilling showdown packed with heart-pounding action and emotional depth. Without spoiling too much, suffice it to say that Hiccup's courage and compassion rewrites the future of Berk and its people. So How to Train Your Dragon is a story about friendship, challenging prejudice, and finding your place in the world. With stunning visuals, a soaring score by John Powell, and a perfect blend of humor and heart, it's no wonder the film launched a beloved franchise. Following the success of the first movie, a sequel went into development. Set 5 years after the events of the first movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2 was released in 2014. Set once again on the island of Berk, the film follows a now grown-up Hiccup who's still inventing gadgets and flying with Toothless. Things have changed in Berk, with dragon riding having become commonplace, but storm clouds are brewing. Hiccup, now 20, is pressured by his father Stoic to take over as chieftain, but Hiccup doesn't feel he's ready. While mapping uncharted territories, Hiccup and his now girlfriend Astrid are ambushed by dragon trappers led by Astrid, who works for Drago Bloodfist, a ruthless warlord building a dragon army to conquer the world. Hiccup and Astrid manage to escape and warn Stoic and the people of Berk. It turns out that Stoic knows who Drago is, as he had once offered him and other chieftains protection from dragons if they pledged to serve him. When they refused, Drago unleashed his dragons on all the chieftains, and Stoic was the only survivor. Stoic thus assumes that war is inevitable and begins fortifying Berk. Hiccup attempts to find Drago to convince him to stand down. However, he and Toothless discover a hidden dragon sanctuary led by a mysterious figure named Valka. It turns out that Valka is Hiccup's long-lost mother, who has become a dragon whisperer and has spent years protecting dragons from harm. Valka reveals that the sanctuary is guarded by a massive ice-breathing dragon known as the Bewilderbeast, who is also able to control other dragons with hypnotic sound waves. Meanwhile, Astrid and the other riders force Astrid to lead them to Drago, but they are captured. It turns out that Drago has his own Bewilderbeast that allows him to control other dragons. Drago then leads an attack on Berk and the Dragon Sanctuary. In an epic showdown, Hiccup and Toothless face Drago's army, testing their bond against mind-controlled dragons and overwhelming odds. Toothless's loyalty and Hiccup's ingenuity shine in a battle that's as emotional as it is thrilling. And in the end, Hiccup must step up and be the leader he's meant to be. The third and final installment in the film trilogy is How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World, released in 2019. Set 1 year after the second film, Hiccup is now chief of Berk which has become a dragon utopia where Vikings and dragons live in harmony. Alongside his best friend Toothless, the rare and mysterious breed of dragon known as a Night Fury, and his girlfriend Astrid, they continue to rescue dragons from trappers. But alas, a new threat emerges in the form of Grimmel, a cunning dragon hunter who's obsessed with wiping out all Night Furies. He's hired by warlords to capture Toothless using a female Light Fury, a sleek white dragon, as bait. When Toothless meets her, he's smitten, pulling him between Hiccup and his own instincts. Meanwhile, Berk's overcrowded with dragons, and Hiccup's dream of a safe haven leads him to search for the Hidden World, a mythical dragon paradise his late father Stoic once spoke of. As Grimmel closes in, Hiccup and his crew, including Valka, Gobber, and the quirky dragon riders, face tough choices. The Light Fury's arrival reveals Toothless's longing for freedom, challenging Hiccup to rethink what's best for his friend. The hunt for the Hidden World takes them to dazzling new lands, but Grimmel's relentless pursuit leads to a high-stakes battle where Hiccup and Toothless must protect their home and each other. In the end, it is determined that the dragons are not safe amongst humans, and thus are sent to live in the Hidden World. However, humans are forbidden there, so Hiccup has to say goodbye to Toothless. It's an emotional send-off for the trilogy, but it ends on a nevertheless positive and hopeful note. The animated film trilogy was a rousing success and has become a beloved franchise, spawning numerous short films as well as 3 separate animated television series since the first movie premiered 15 years ago. Because of its popularity, it's really no great surprise that they would want to do a live-action remake of these things. I guess I am a little surprised that they're doing it so quick though. I mean, the last movie only just came out a few years ago, not a time period I would normally associate with the concept of nostalgia. On the other hand, I guess kids who grew up with the films, starting about 15 years ago, would be adults now, and maybe you get some who are already wistful about their very recent childhoods. Anyway, the new film is once again directed by Dean DeBlois, who directed all 3 of the animated movies, and is expected to be a mostly faithful adaptation of the original. Starring Mason Thames as Hiccup and Nico Parker as Astrid, it also brings back Gerard Butler to reprise his role as Stoic the Vast. Entering development in early 2023, it was delayed slightly by the SAG-AFTRA strikes, with filming taking place between January and May of 2024. They reportedly made heavy use of practical sets, and to give it a more authentic look and feel both for the actors' performances and the visual effects team's post-production animation work, they actually used puppets on set in place of the dragons. Many scenes from the animated movie are said to be recreated shot for shot. John Powell, who scored the original animated films, also returned as composer for the film, so it really does appear that they're trying to make this as close to the original as possible. And if they do that, I bet they make a boatload of cash on this thing. Now, if you've seen my prior videos about live-action remakes of animated classics, you know I'm not a big fan. I like animation, and I think in a lot of ways they're able to achieve things in animated films that aren't possible or practical in live action. Also, especially in movies like this with dragons and magic and shit, a lot of the live action remake is just CGI animation anyway. So I almost always ask, why? Why just remake the same movie? And it's even more perplexing with this movie in particular. First, I don't think it can be fairly called a classic yet. The trilogy just wrapped in 2019. But also, the animated films are entirely CGI animation, so the new versions of the dragons will likely look a lot like the original ones. It's a live-action / CGI remake of a CGI movie. I mean, that's not much of a difference at all. And if they really are doing a shot-for-shot remake, I just don't understand the purpose. Alright, so apparently I'm not the only one who feels that way. David Fear in Rolling Stone wrote this article, How to Train Your Dragon, Dorks and Dragons, but Make It Real-ish. What, you thought Disney had a lock on recycling their old animated films as live-action romps in the name of milking back catalog properties and nostalgia-driven fandom? The animation division of the former entertainment bigwig supergroup known as Dreamworks may not have the deep bench that the Mouse House does, but they're blessed with a few notable IPs, ripe for the same thing but make it real-ish treatment. And until we get the inevitable live-action Shrek, the 2010 adaptation of Cressida Cowell's book series about a nerdy dude and his adorable fire-breathing best bud was their best option. Look, it could have been worse. It could have been The Boss Baby but starring an actual IRL baby. Laugh all you want, you know some flop-sweating exec has 100% pitched this. Yeah, that's probably true. So yes, you still get Hiccup, the original's lovable dork that was voiced by Jay Baruchel and is now played by the Black Phone's Mason Thames. He's still dealing with the oppressive standards of masculinity that comes with being an 8th century Viking, as well as his overbearing tribal chief of a dad, voiced by Gerard Butler in the Toon version, and now plays by, checks notes, Gerard Butler. Most of the article, he just kind of recaps the story that we already went through. So he does say, look closely and you can find enough slight differences and variations from How to Train Your Dragon 1.0 in this live-action take, and the various messages embedded in the story involving understanding over dominating, empathy over fear, brains over brawn, right over might, et al. Continue to ring true 15 years later. Considering what's happening all around us outside the theater, they assuredly bear repeating. So here's where we get to the point I was making. But repeat is a word that applies to virtually all of this Dorks and Dragons tale, rendered with real actors instead of sketched out characters. And while we're loath to fully unload on this particular player for doing what it set out to do, we're genuinely beginning to hate the game. The same question that so often plagues Disney's live-action trips down memory lane hangs over this attempt to beat them at their own game as well. Why? You can say box office receipts, suggesting that these films are simply meeting a need, see the current Lilo and Stitch, which, oddly enough, was another animated film that DeBlois also co-directed back in the day. You can point to corporate opportunism, skittish stockholders in need of reassurance via a sure thing, and a lack of imagination in the industry overall. You can declare that every generation deserves its own dragons to train, though what they might get out of this version versus the readily available animated version is a mystery. The only answer that makes any sort of logical sense, however, is because they can. A live-action sequel has already been greenlit, so regardless of whether this makes hundreds of millions or merely dozens of dollars, the folks who own these titles have no intention to stop rating your old favorites for new hits. Debate all you want about whether this movie actually teaches you how to train a dragon. What this movie is actually trying to accomplish, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is how to train their audiences to keep buying the same thing over and over and over again. A little harsher than I would have gone on How to Train Your Dragons, but the point is the same. Why keep remaking these same things? Now, there's also some controversy about the actress playing Astrid, Nico Parker. In the original, Astrid is a classic Nordic-looking girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, and Nico Parker is, well, not. And while I don't personally have any emotional attachment to the original animated characters in this one, a lot of people do, and some people complained. How to Train Your Dragon star Nico Parker reacts to trolls about her casting. Quote, "I can't value your opinion on my hair." So Nico Parker is speaking out about social media reactions to the actress's casting as Astrid in the live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon. In an interview with British publication The Times, Parker was asked about online trolls grousing that the actress does not have blonde hair and blue eyes, as Astrid was initially depicted in the animated films that launched in 2010's original How to Train Your Dragon. Quote, "There's some people that really love the animated movies and really want to see an exact play-by-play of that film, and I hope that you can watch the new version and find something that you love about it regardless," Parker said. "But for the people that just hate inclusivity, hate change, when it comes to that side of things, I just don't care." The 20-year-old performer continued, "If I wouldn't value your opinion on most things in life, I can't value your opinion on my hair. If I did, I would go mad." And then we talk more about inclusivity and all that other horse shit. We just keep having the same conversation over and over again, like there's not enough inclusivity now in film. Parker went on to say she believes Hollywood is making headway when it comes to on-screen representation. There's still a long way to go for women in general in terms of new parts, original material, and female-led stories, but I think that everything's changing. I'd like to think that I could contribute to that at some point. So it does seem a little weird not to at least put a wig on Nico Parker or color her hair to look like the character, especially since they seem to be going for like a one-to-one remake. Again, I don't give a shit, but fans of the franchise have a right to object to such a stark change in appearance of one of the main characters. And for this actress to lash out at those fans, saying that she doesn't value their opinions on anything, including her hair, seems unnecessarily antagonistic. And besides, this is an important point, fans aren't complaining about Nico Parker's hair. They're complaining about Astrid's hair. They care about the character, not the actress. I really wish these Hollywood folks would get it through their skulls that not everything is about them. You're playing a character, and that's what people care about. Anyway, How to Train Your Dragon releases this weekend, June 13th, Friday the 13th. And Part 2 is already in production and set to release in July of 2027. Like I said before, despite the minor controversy over Astrid's hair color, I bet this movie still rakes in oodles of money, which will inevitably encourage more of these recycled IPs in the future. And I guess the public will just keep seal clapping for more. What do you think? Are you excited about the live action How to Train Your Dragon? Or are you sitting this remake out? Let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye for now. I hope to see you next time in the Culture Ward.